Welcome to the Good Life, Great Careers podcast. This is our fourth episode. My name is Brian Civic. I'm the Director of Workforce Training and Development. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Caitlin Betts, who is the Director of Talent Acquisition for the state of Nebraska. The purpose of this podcast, if anyone's new to listening to it, is we really want to help shine a spotlight on, bring attention to, and awareness to Nebraska state government as a place where you can start and build a career. Nebraska state government is one of the most, if not the most, diverse employers within the state of Nebraska when it comes to career opportunities. In fact, right now there are literally hundreds of opportunities within Nebraska state government, and you can check those out by going to statejobs.nebraska.gov and clicking on Find a State Job link. And we'll talk about that again at the end of the podcast. So I'd encourage you to stay tuned all the way through to the end, and we'll talk about that some more. In each episode of these podcasts, we are going to feature a different state teammate as our guest, and it's going to give them an opportunity to share a little bit about their career journey, their journey to state government and then within state government, and also to share a little bit about opportunities maybe within their agency itself. And today, I'm really excited about our guest. We have a unique guest today. The first three episodes of the podcast, if you watch those, our guests were teammates who were pretty well established in their careers, through their career journey, both in their profession and within Nebraska state government. And our guest today is just starting out on his career journey. I also happen to have a personal connection to our guest today, as he is my nephew. And so I want to welcome Michael Griess. Michael Griess is a radiological health physicist. I want to make sure I got that title correct. With Department of Health and Human Services. I do think he probably has the coolest title of anyone in the family. And so anyway, Michael, want to welcome you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us a little bit today to discuss your career journey. So let's begin by just turning it over to you and then share a little bit about yourself with us and with our listeners.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me. I was just talking to you. Thank you for what you're doing with this podcast. I think it allows me, myself, and the other Nebraska state teammates to learn, about these other jobs, and not only just the teammates, but the public to learn what we do as the state of Nebraska. So thank you. I think what you do is fantastic. So a little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Lincoln, local Lincolnite. Went to high school here, ended up going to school at UNL for a couple of years, and before I transferred out to UNMC. So what I did at UNMC was I got my bachelor's of science in x-ray sciences. And that's kind of what led me to this career path. Like you said, it's an interesting title. So it's a radiological health physicist. So what that means, I'll dive a little bit into it here, is what really we do is we protect the public and the occupational workers who deal with radiation and radioactive material with their job. So the stereotypical thought about radiation is it's dangerous, and rightfully so. It can be dangerous, but you look at radiation and what it can do. It can cure cancer. It can help cure cancer, and it gives us energy at those nuclear power plants, and it gives us a multitude of benefits as well. So really, what we do is we regulate, we license, and we prepare for any emergency situation that could possibly happen with these materials.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And again, welcome. We're really excited to learn a little bit more about you. It sounds like your team is responsible for some really important things. You described a couple of different areas of radiation. Hopefully I'm saying that,
That's right,
that right. Is there a particular area that you focus in?
Not necessarily. What I deal with is the radioactive materials. I'll say that. So our team consists of two sides. I'll say is the X-ray. So they deal with the X-ray. It's the radiation generating equipment. So it's X-ray, CT. The kind of typical equipment you think of in a hospital. What my team, what we deal with is the material side. So what that means is there's radiopharmaceuticals there's portable gauges is what we call them. It's radioactive material inside a detector that can be used for multiple purposes. One of the most common ones is moisture density gauges. So these engineers, they'll go out, they flatten the land they want to prepare to work on, and they need to get a moisture density reading before they can begin working on that land. So they'll take some readings out there, and like I said, the other main focus is that medical field. So radiopharmaceuticals, and there's multiple hats I really wear as a worker, I like to say. So we also deal with the nuclear power plant a little bit. A big part of our job is emergency preparedness for that. So again, it tends to scare people, but I hope this podcast can actually shed light on, we take great precaution. We prepare for any emergency situation that could possibly go wrong with these nuclear power plants. So, the state really is in good hands with these power plants and with these radioactive materials.
How big is the team that you work on?
Right now it's 6 to 7. We're bringing on another person, so it's going to be about 8 people. But and that's with support staff and my manager included. The X-ray world is one inspector and his support staff, and then the radioactive material world is a little more in depth. So we have about 6 members with support staff and management. But that I'll go into that a little bit. That the X-ray, you think of it, X-ray. Every town has a dentist. A lot of towns have hospitals too. So our X-ray registrations, we have over 1,000 in the state, and that one inspector is responsible for all of those. In the radioactive material world, it's me, myself, it's going to be 2 other inspectors, my manager, and then some support staff as well. And what we really focus on is, like I said, that medical world and that industrial use of radiography or radioactive material.
And how long have you been in your current position with the state?
I started here. It's probably about 9 months ago now. So it's very new. It's very new. I'm fortunate enough. I work with very established physicists. I work with a senior physicist. He's been at this job for over 20 years. My manager has been here for over 10 years, and they treat me well. I'm always allowed to ask questions if I have something, because understandably so, this is a complicated world of radioactive material. It's a world where you're always learning something new. So luckily enough, I am with a very good crew, and they value me. They teach me a lot of things. So about 9 months I've been learning with them, and I'll still be learning 10 years from now.
Yeah. So it's impressive, one, what your team does. The other thing that comes to mind for me is I had no idea the state did this. I mean, it makes sense, but it just never crossed my mind that this is a need. This is something the state does. So I guess what drew you to this position, to working with the state?
Yeah, it's that's a very good question, because it's actually, until I applied for this job, I didn't know it existed. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to dig and look for a job in this field to discover it. So I was actually fortunate enough. I graduated last spring, with my bachelor's in X-ray sciences, and I wanted to keep my door open. So I didn't accept a job. I had a couple offers right out of college. But I wanted to keep it open, find the best offer there was, so one that fitted me. And I hesitate to say that the offers I got didn't fit me. I was looking for something more. So what I did was I ended up going on the Nebraska State Job website. And I think you guys are most likely definitely familiar with that. And I found this job. I searched a keyword. It was radiology. And radiologic health physicist popped up. And what I did was I dove on into the website a little bit, got to see what they do, what they manage, really what the job entails. Because the job description was good, yes. I knew what I was applying for, but I didn't quite know what they would do on a daily basis. Okay, you manage and inspect hospitals. How many hospitals are there in the state? Yeah, there's quite a few, but do you really need a crew of 8 people to do it? So I dove into it, and I learned a little bit more about this radiological world, the radioactive material world, and sure enough, I found out that the X-ray, we talked about that, 1,000 registrants for X-ray, but our world in radioactive material, it's over. We have about 200 registrants. So sure enough, yeah, they need some help. So I applied, and I got a call back, got an interview. It went really well. I got a really good feeling from my senior physicist now, and then my manager, she was in that interview as well. So what really drew me to this job was this feeling of I'm doing something for the public. I'm doing something to serve the public. I could have gone into the private sector. I thought about it, but really this job is about being a public servant. It's about serving others. And, diving into this job a little more, I'm so glad I took it. It's looking back on it for 9 months now. It's something that I see myself. This is a long-term job for me. I love it here. So to answer your question, I found it online and got into it. I took the job because of my feeling of camaraderie, just with those two interviews I had and with the crew I had.
So how does that compare to prior to applying? Even before it even crossed your mind to, hey, I'm going to go look and see what opportunities there are with the state of Nebraska. Did you have a preconceived notion of what it would be like to work for the state, or what a typical state employee would be, or state career would be like?
Yeah. So,
and I just want to remind you, your uncle worked for the state.
So funny thing. I for the longest time I thought all state employees work in the Capitol. so I was naive. I learned that pretty quick, but I had a certain understanding of what the state government did. I thought there was a limited role that they did, and honestly, I never thought it would really attract me until I applied. So, knowing what I know now, it's something that I would gladly go back and apply, and really encourage others to do the same as well, because I think there is probably a stereotype around public service. It's a lot of people, they're not attracted to it for whatever reason. There's a multitude of reasons, but knowing what I know now, I love what I do, and I love the people that I work with, and I love the mission that everyone at the state of Nebraska works towards. You really are working towards a greater good, and that's evident in everyone I meet in state government. I was fortunate enough, I got to meet our chief medical officer, Gary Antone, and our state epidemiologist at Matthew Donahue, Dr. Matthew Donahue. They, being a new guy, when the leadership shows up and meets you face to face, that really means a lot to me. And you don't necessarily get that everywhere you work. And so the leadership here in the state of Nebraska, in my department, that drew me in, and that cemented me in right then and there. I think together we're united. We're working towards a common goal, and we're succeeding. So.
You talked a little bit about how you really selected this position because you were able to do something for the greater good, add value. Talk a little bit more about how your position impacts Nebraska citizens.
Yeah, our position it's a position that if you never hear about us, it's a good thing. You hope that we are never in the news. Really what we do is we are out there I say I have three hats with this job. I have licensing, so everyone that possesses radioactive material, they need to have a license with us. I inspect, so we go out to these sites all throughout Nebraska, and we make sure that they are using the radioactive material properly and safely and in an effective manner. And then lastly, we are emergency managers. We prep for emergency situations, and we really put that an emphasis to protect the public. So what we do for the civilians, for the public, is we're watching out for them in, I like to say, an undercover role. You know, mostly through inspections. We have a pretty stringent inspection process, but rightfully so. I mean, we're dealing with possibly dangerous material. So we have to be pretty strict on these licensees because we want them using this material safely and effectively. If they weren't, there's a possibility that they could contaminate the environment, they could contaminate themselves, they could contaminate others, you know, whole towns when we're talking about nuclear power plants. But luckily, everyone in this world, this small world of radioactive material, radiology, they are on the same page. They are working together to protect the public, and we are just there to enforce that.
So tell us a little bit more about the inspections. You actually go into facilities, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite parts of this job is it takes me all over the state. So, you know, we're going out to Scottsbluff, and we're going all the way down to Nebraska City, up to Valentine, Norfolk area. We're northeast, southwest, we're everywhere. So we go into these facilities, whether it be a hospital, it's sometimes engineering firms that use those gauges. We have some irradiators and all that. But we go in, we go through, we want to watch them use their material. That's the main purpose of our inspections. We go through some paperwork here and there, and that's important to have because this paperwork basically proves that they are doing what they need to do to upkeep with that material, that it's not putting the public in danger. But really, the main purpose is to see them use it, or at least have them demonstrate to us that they can use it. Because without that, you know, people use material, and this goes for anything. Everyone has a different way of doing things, right? So with radioactive material, that's the same way. Essentially, we want to kind of standardize it in a way, but you know, obviously everyone is their own person. They can do what they want to an extent. But what we do is we go in there and make sure they're using it effectively, write a report and say, hey, you're good to go. Or, hey, here's a couple corrections, get back to us and we'll see you next time. So
you've talked a lot about what your team does and then what your typical day looks like. To me, it sounds, and you've talked about, you know, the public service aspect of it, which, you know, I would agree that's a very rewarding aspect. But I guess if you had to narrow it down, what drives you? What's the favorite part of your job? What fills your bucket on a daily basis?
Ooh, favorite part of my job. I'll hone into that one. I love the traveling and the people I get to meet. So I've kind of spoken about it a little bit. This job takes me all over the place. And everywhere I go, people are just Nebraska nice. I say that in quotations because it's true. It's something that you only really get in Nebraska. Maybe it's a Midwest thing, but you know, everyone you meet, everyone I meet on these inspections are fantastic people. They're great people. They're more than willing to share stories with you. And at the end of the day, we're there to do a job. But you know, if I can make some connections all throughout the state, that's what I love about this job. It's you know, and the same with the state building here. Everyone I work with, not just my team, but the whole Department of Public Health, Department of Health and Human Services. There is a Nebraska nice. There's a camaraderie to it. So that's my favorite part of my job. I'd have to say.
What's the best place you've traveled?
Ooh, so yeah, and this might not be the best, but it's the most memorable. So I went to Valentine, Nebraska in February, and this was for an inspection. So for these inspections, sometimes we have to stay the night. So I ended up having to stay the night. My inspection was the next morning. And I woke up and I looked at the weather. I knew it was going to be cold, but I looked at the weather and it said it is -40 with the wind chill. And I was supposed to be doing an outdoor inspection. So by far the most memorable. Probably not my favorite, but that's the one that comes to mind. But my favorite place I've traveled is, I love going to these bigger facilities. Omaha has a couple big hospitals, and they're first of all, everyone you go to is very understanding and knowledgeable of what they do. But these large universities, UNL, UNMC, they are I love visiting them because they are to the next level. They kind of they're on the research level, so they're doing some things that are kind of out there, but licensed. They're being safe about it. So I like going to those universities.
What's been the most interesting experience that you've had so far in your role?
Ooh.
Besides -40 degrees
Right.
weather.
My career's young, so I'm sure there'll be more interesting stories that come along. One recent endeavor I had was we work pretty closely with Nebraska Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, for this nuclear power plant here in Nebraska. And so what we had to do is essentially we have to make sure we have proper communications, which is where NEMA comes in. They kind of take care of the radio towers for us since we're communicating over radio for these emergency situations. So about a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go out to the nuclear power plant and work on these radio stations out there. And, it's just one of these things where I joined this job thinking, it's heavy in science. I love science. And this job is taking me to work on radio towers. This job is taking me all over the place and giving me new opportunities I never would have thought of having. So, getting to work with NEMA on these radios was it was fun. I sound like a little nerd about that, but it's awesome. I love the opportunities it gives me, and it's not necessarily dealing with my field necessarily. The world of emergency management and the world of radiology expands in a way that you're not always doing the same thing over and over.
So, and maybe that's the answer to this question I wanted to ask, but I guess you're new, in your career, just starting out, been with state government for about 9 months. What's been the biggest surprise, I guess, and it could be as far as your career or just state government as a whole, but starting out your career in Nebraska state government, what's been the biggest surprise to you so far?
I would have to say, I kind of touched on it already, but just how involved the leadership is. I actually had the opportunity to meet with the governor as well. We had a couple meetings with him, and he did some signings for us, and the leadership of Nebraska. They want to know what you're doing, and it's not as simple. Oh, that's cool. They're involved. They truly mean well, and they watch out for you, and they want to make sure you have the resources you need, and they want to make real conversation with you as opposed to just business all the time. So that, to me, that was the most surprising. Just because I know, how big the name the governor is, or how big the name the chief medical officer is. As a 22-year-old, it means the world to me that these guys are in my job, talking to me and asking me what we need to succeed.
So what is your favorite benefit or perk of working for the state of Nebraska?
Yeah, so one of one of the things I knew coming into Nebraska was they had great benefits. It's really a place where you can work and set yourself up nicely with the retirement. They have a great retirement plan. They have great health benefits. But for me, actually, I am still in school. I'm currently doing graduate school. So I found out actually after accepting the job that they do help with tuition reimbursement. So that some companies do that, some don't. But finding that out it's a huge benefit to someone who wants to go back to school and who wants to continue their education. So
Yeah, and that's, I love that you mentioned that. And they just announced in the last few weeks the tuition reimbursement, the partnership between Nebraska state government and the community colleges for dependents of state teammates as well. And to me, it just speaks to the investment that Nebraska state government is putting into its talent and its teammates to develop them, to give them these opportunities to both attract and retain. And as we do that, it just elevates everybody. We better serve the public, and we're just better at what we do then. So I love that you mentioned that. It's definitely right now a job seekers market. There are a lot of openings, and there is a labor shortage. State government's not immune to that. So we are competing for talent across the board with the private sector. One thing about having you as a guest, again, somebody that's unique, is having someone just starting out in their career. And I guess, what would you say to your peers, to those maybe in the younger generation that are not considering Nebraska state government? It doesn't cross their mind maybe for whatever reason of, no, I don't want a career in that, or maybe they're not even thinking that way. They're just not thinking about that at all. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
It's as simple as give it a shot. I mean, it's really, like I said, this is a great place to grow and build your career, and you can make a long-term career out of this place, which a lot of people, they don't necessarily have that in mind when they're 22. They're thinking, okay, what can I do to better myself now? And I would tell these people to think about the long term and where you want to be, because this job, and this working with the state, you really have great benefits. What drew me to this job was it's Monday through Friday, and as someone who possibly could have worked in healthcare, one of the options was work every other weekend, and so there's stability in this job. I'll say that, and then long term, there's growth here as well. I mean, there's like you said, you mentioned there's always kind of some openings up in the government, so there's always room to grow and climb the ladder, so to speak, which is great. So.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I also love about the state is there's just so much opportunity, whether it's in one agency or you change agencies, there's always room to grow. And I think some of the training and the benefits that go into that really help emphasize that. So glad to hear that's been your experience too.
And as we've had this conversation, you hit on a couple of things that I think are where Nebraska state government really has the edge, and that's one is with culture. You talked a lot about leadership, being engaged and involved, and that's certainly been, I think, our experience in our agency and Department of Administrative Services is very appreciative of our current leadership and the direction they're taking us, and it's really impacted the culture of our agency. And then also career development and career opportunities. There are so many opportunities, and just as you shared, the things, the unique aspects of not only your position but your team and throughout state government. That story really unfolds throughout state government. The career, the unique career opportunities that are out there that really don't get anywhere else. So I think you really hit on a few things there that are really important.
I was just going to ask if anyone is interested in learning more about the radiological health field. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but where would they find more information?
Most likely our website. That's the best place to start. So it's as easy as a quick Google search, Nebraska DHHS Radiological Health. There you can learn more about what we do, what our program entails, and really what we provide to the public. And then if they are interested in this a job in this field, there's always the Nebraska Jobs website as well, which is, like I said, where I ended up finding this job. So there's many places to look, but I would recommend those two if they are looking into this field.
Ready for the hot seat?
Sure.
All right. We'll start off easy. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Coke. All right. Good choice. Who is your favorite uncle?
That's not fair. Let's say Brian, just so he doesn't.
Good answer. Good answer. Mountains or the beach?
Ooh, mountains. Colorado, pretty close there. Yeah.
Who is your favorite sports team?
Ooh, so I'm obligated to say the Huskers. I love the Huskers, right? But you know me, I'm a big football fan, so I am a New England Patriots fan, and I grew up wanting to be Tom Brady, but that didn't work out.
Now, are you still a Tom Brady fan? So have you switched allegiances? Not entirely, but are you also a fan of the Bucs now?
I'm loyal to the Patriots, but yeah, until Tom Brady retires, I'm a fan of whatever team he's on.
I will say this: I've never been a Tom Brady fan, partly because he's a Michigan guy. Although if there's anybody from Michigan watching this, we would love to have you apply.
That's right.
You're
right.
Always welcome to the good life in Nebraska. But after he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, it's like tons of respect.
Yes.
Tons of respect. Like
yeah.
it's amazing what he's done. Okay. If you had to change your first name, what would you change it to?
Ooh, I would say let's just do James. That's my
James,
middle name,
all right.
and I like my middle name, so I would be James.
What's the last movie you saw in a theater?
Ooh, Doctor Strange. No, Spider-Man with Doctor Strange. I forget what that one's called, but the multiverse one.
Yeah. Who is your favorite band?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm a punk rock guy at heart, and I grew up with like Fall Out Boy and their initial albums. So if that dates my age at all, I'm sure it will. But I like that punk rock. It's Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be your go-to karaoke song?
Tequila. I don't know the artist, but you say one word the whole time. Tequila.
So I thought you'd maybe say Radioactive.
By Imagine Dragons, yeah. I'll go with that one too. That's a good song.
Okay, last one. You ready?
Yep.
If they're going to make a movie about you and you're in charge of casting, who plays you?
Oh, Tom Brady. Oh, no, that's a good question for real though. And it's I always was told, this was back in the day, that I sort of kind of looked like Andrew Garfield. So Andrew Garfield is my final answer.
Okay, that's interesting because I have an opinion.
Okay.
My wife Melody and I, your aunt,
Right.
we've discussed this. And if it's an older version of you, it'd be Will Estes from Blue Bloods, plays
Yes.
Jamie Reagan. Otherwise, the other one would be that we thought was Tom Holland.
Yes, the Spider-Man.
One of the Spider-Mans apparently would play you in a movie, or maybe you'd play Spider-Man.
Sure,
I don't know.
yeah.
All right. Any final advice for anyone who's starting out on their career?
Just don't be afraid to be yourself and look for what you want. It's one of those things that's really daunting when you're starting off your career, but know what you want to do, and find something that's rewarding for yourself, which is, again, what I think the state of Nebraska can provide.
Great advice.
Awesome. Well, Michael, again, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting to learn about your unique career with the state of Nebraska, and I'll see a little piece into the world of radioactive materials. To our listeners, if you want to check out the great career opportunities, including those available with the Department of Health and Human Services, go to statejobs.nebraska.gov and click on the Find a State Job link. When you're there, you can also find links to our Nebraska State Jobs social media channels on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to have you follow us there as well to learn about our great careers. Finally, you can also check us out on YouTube. When you're there, just search for the Nebraska Department of Administrative Services and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can be alerted when we have future videos and podcasts available there. Again, on behalf of our guest, Michael, my co-host, Brian, and myself, Caitlin, I want to thank you for tuning in and learning more about great careers here in The Good Life.